guys, it's Charles Osterlin here with Liquid Blue Cabarete in Cabarete, and today we're going to be updating our original wing foiling video to now a new updated version of our wing foiling video. So let's go. So a lot of people, since the video I made back in 2020 or 2019, forget when it was, have been asking for more advice and a more sort of complete guide, and that's what I'm going to do for you today. As you can see, we're here on a normal day in Cabarete. We got lots of kites out and it's great. We're going to begin on the beach. So some of the basics will not be mentioned, some will, but we're going to be rolling from, if you're someone who wants to learn how to wing foil and you're by yourself, or you're just looking for some pre-information before you get into the sport, then this is going to be the video that you're going to want to listen to and then maybe even follow if you're going to practice. So here we are. I got a 5-meter F1 swing V2 and I got my pump to begin. When you get into wing foiling, it's going to be important that you have a pump and that you have a good one. So some of the basics of knowing where the wind is coming from is going to be hard to mention for you in this video, but basically to know where the wind is coming from, you can hear it in your ears. So if I want to know exactly where the wind is coming from, I'm going to look until I can see and hear wind going into both of my ears. So now I can tell that the wind is coming from this general direction, and I'm going to be working with my wing downwind of me when I'm going to be pumping it up. So, luckily we got a brand new wing here. Let's see how it is. So you're going to want to undo your wing, and you're going to want to undo it downwind from you. If I do it this way, you see it flies into me, so it doesn't make any sense. So we're going to work downwind. Alrighty, we got our wing. On this F1 wing, we have two valves. We have a dump valve for the center strut, so we're going to make sure we close that. I'm going to get here, pop that in, close it down. Great. With F1, we have a push valve, so all I'm going to have to do is push that valve to close it and bring it down. When I'm going to pump up my wing, I'm going to make sure to attach it so it's nice and secure. Grab my hose, make sure no sand. And we're going to pump this up. So sometimes people are wondering, how hard do I have to pump my wing? What's the right amount? If you use a pump, a modern one, they usually have a valve, a pressure valve, that will be able to tell you how much PSI, how much pressure you have in your wing. And luckily, F1 also gives you a recommended PSI, which is 8 for this 5.5 meter. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to pump this up. I'm going to pump it up to 8. Alrighty, there we are. It's pumped up to 8. It's looking good. At this point, the wind is not that strong, but regardless, I'm not going to want to let go of the equipment. So I'm going to hold my wing, take off my adapter, my leash, close my cap, and then we're good to go. Now what's going to be important here is to put on the wrist leash. The wrist leash, sometimes people wonder, what hand should I put it on? Should it be on my left? Should it be on my right? This is a personal preference thing. For the conditions we have here and my personal preference, I like to have it on my left hand. And from there, now we have the wing in our hands and it's nice and pumped up. So as you can see, I have the wing downwind from me, not into the wind because it's not gonna work. So this is something, if you're new to wind sports, it's important to understand where's the wind coming from so you know what to do. So now that I have the wing in my hands, as you can see, when I hold this center handle, the wing is pretty neutral. Just as if I let it go, sort of just flies around. So this is something important to remember, that when you hold just one handle on the leading edge of the wing, it's sort of neutral, doesn't really do anything. As we can tell on this wing, we have two handles, a front and a back one. Our front handle also, if held by itself, is generally neutral. And with this handle, what it's gonna be doing, it's gonna be somewhat of a power handle and also a little bit of steering. And then you're gonna see what I'm gonna mean here. So once I apply my backhand helps me with power and steering. And what happens here is that a lot of people, when they first grab the wing, they're gonna have a lot of sort of mistakes where they're really gonna be tensed up and they're gonna be pulling and they're gonna be doing all types of things that they shouldn't really be doing. To give it to you quickly and basic, your front hand, you're gonna wanna keep it nice and loose with a little bit of hold, but not really holding it nice and holding it tight and being very fighting it. You just wanna have it sort of floating there. Your backhand, you're gonna have it a little bit more engaged. As you can see, my elbow is a little bit more bent and I'm sort of applying a little bit of pressure, a little bit of weight to it. With my front hand extended and my backhand a little bit bent for control. Now, one common thing is that people think that doing motions with their wrists does something. And as you can tell, it does nothing other than make me uncomfortable. So your hands are essentially controlling the wing with the handles, but they're controlling it in a way of where your shoulders and your arms are sort of directed. If they're a little bit in front of you, if they're a little bit above you, this affects it. And then also, there's a bit of a twirl motion here where if I pull my backhand or push it forward, the wing does move in some sort of way. And this helps me with control. So I'm gonna go over here, just so you see this, that if I use my wrists, nothing happens. But now, if I not only pull, but also pull in various directions in the sense of pushing down or pushing down and pulling up, or pushing down and pulling up, it affects differently. In this case, when I'm here just on the beach, what I'm doing here is going to be somewhat similar to what I'm doing in the water. So with my front hand, as I mentioned, it acts as a steering handle, a bit of a guide, but my backhand does most of the steering. Where if I move my backhand in front of me, like so, you see it's making my arms do, it's making my wing do something, which is moving. So from a steering standpoint, what's going to be happening here is that your backhand gives power, right? So if I pull down, it gives power. And my front hand, if I pull down, it does not give me power. It actually loses power. So it does the opposite. Now, if I were to switch sides, the same thing is true, which is you don't want to be getting confused with your left hand and your right hand, because the conditions might change and the spot you're riding at might change. So it's always good to be thinking in front hand and backhand standpoints. My backhand helps me steer, also gets power, and then my front hand acts a bit as a guide and in a way affects the power, because if I shorten my front hand, I lose power, and if I extend it, I have the power that the wing can deliver to me. So now, if I was going to be learning and messing around on the beach, some of the exercises I'm going to want to do is first getting in control of the wing, being comfortable with it. So as you can see here, I have the wing. It's not doing anything. I'm in control and I'm comfortable. If I let go of it, nothing really happens. You already see it in the video. Nothing really happens. I can pull my way back and I can get to it. Now, when you get to want to control your wing, I recommend that you use the opposite hand of wherever you're going, so your backhand essentially to hold the wing. If I'm going to be going out to sea here, my backhand will be my left hand. So what I'm going to do is hold the wing with my backhand, in this case my left hand. I'm going to pull it up to me so I can get to my front handle with my front hand, and I'm going to bring the wing over and grab it with my backhand and be in the position. So the first exercise is just being on the beach and being comfortable. As we can see here, someone is practicing right above us, right over here, practicing some exercises just to get more control of the wing. Feeling the wind, seeing where they're at, and getting control. So once we get comfortable with the wing, some exercises are going to be keeping it steady, bringing it down close to the sand, which in the future will be the water, bringing it above our heads, walking with the wing, turning around, walking back, and so forth until we're comfortable. It's very important to be comfortable with the wing, because once we get to the board, we're going to be opening up a whole nother can of worms, which we're going to want to make sure that at least we have this part down. So being comfortable, like I mentioned, with the wing down in front of you, with the wing above your head, switching hands, and staying in control. When you go one way or the other, your controls or what you're doing with your hands are going to be changing. So it's important to be comfortable with it, because generally people are going to dominate one side easier than they can dominate the other. So you want to make sure that you're fluid, that you know what you're doing, that you're comfortable on both sides before getting into the water. More time you spend here on the land, better you're going to do in the water. Alrighty. So once you get the wing control, you're going to want to do one thing. Here, luckily in Cabarete, we have decent wind. We have wind speeds averaging 15 to 20 knots almost year round, 300 days plus. So we're a little bit spoiled. There's some places that have lighter wind and there's some places that have stronger wind. So in this case, since we have sort of very fair, good conditions, everything is somewhat a little bit easier for us because it's more consistent. So knowing your spot is crucial to being able to perform where you're going to be practicing. So you want to know how the wind operates. Does it go off? Is there wind shadows? What are the waves doing? All this information, which is sort of having a spot check. So in any case, now that we have the wing and we have control, we're going to want to be able to generate power. So how would we generate power? Now we saw that if I shorten my front hand, I lose power. So my front hand's not going to really help me. In this case, my backhand is where I'm going to be able to generate some power. When you're considering to generate power, there's sort of two ways to go about it. Two primary ways. You have pulling down with your backhand down to your hip. So you're going to want to get in front here. So pulling with my backhand down to my hip will be one way of generating power. It does look like I'm using my front hand, but I'm not. I'm just simply reacting with my backhand, getting power. And you see that already wants to pull me out of the way. The other way that you can generate power when you're wing foiling is using both of your hands. So if I use both of my hands, I'm trying to scoop the wind. So here you can see I'm trying to scoop the wind, and this really wants me to go. Or I can generate with my backhand. Now there's one way that I've found that you could figure out if you're sort of off rhythm or not being that efficient. If you hear the wing fluttering a lot, whether you're doing it with one hand or with two hands, then you sort of know you're off rhythm and you're actually probably working harder than you should. So being comfortable generating power with a steady rhythm, whether it's with one hand or whether it's with both hands, is going to be key. Once you get into pumping, you're going to want to be able to pump 3 to 6 times consecutively without losing rhythm and without losing your breath. So it's important to remember to breathe and to be overall comfortable. So now I learn one way, I'm gonna want to learn how to practice the other way. Learning with my backhand and learning with my front hand. All right, so now that we have seen how we generate power, it's good to practice that a little bit. Some people like to have fun and they like to run down the beach and generate power. You can do whatever you want to do. The important part is that you're having fun and that you're learning something and you're feeling it. Now that we know how to control the wing, generate power, we're eventually going to be getting to the next part, which is getting up on the board. So some exercises that you can practice right here on the beach are going to be as follows. So imagining that I was on my board and the direction I'm going to want to go, I'm going to try to work as almost realistic as possible when doing these exercises, so that once I get in the water, I'm going to be well prepared. So once I'm here on the sand, I'm going to want to make sure I have my wing downwind of me. I'm going to imagine I'm on the board. Once you're on the board, you're going to be, depending on the size of the board you're using, you might be either very stable or unstable. In the case of learning, hopefully you have a board that is very user-friendly, that has volume. We're going to talk a little bit about that later, but essentially you want to find a board with the right amount of volume for your weight and your size and also your conditions, because the wind can affect that. But in any case, imagining I'm on my board, I'm going to want to draw a line. This line shows the center of my board. And if my board ended here and here, now I have my knees at both extremes of the board because I'm using my knees to balance. One thing that's important, if you look here at my feet, is that some people are flat-footed. Now, to operate from this standpoint, if we're just cruising on our knees, it might be okay. But if we're gonna be trying to stand up, then we definitely wanna be active on our feet. So it's good to be able to get your toes under you, because from there, everything will get a little bit easier. But in any case, we're getting ahead of ourselves. So now I'm on my imaginary board. I'm sort of centered on it. I have my knees at each end to maintain balance. What I'm gonna wanna practice is first getting the wing above my head and being able to keep the wingtip down there off of the water. If it was touching, now I'm in the water. So I wanna practice keeping the wing above my head and slightly in front of me so that it brings me out. Now when we spoke about pumping, it's gonna be good here that once we get on our board, which you're gonna see later in this video, that we learn to generate a little bit of speed by pumping our wing. Once we start moving, the exercise that we're gonna wanna practice, if we look down at the board, is that we're gonna wanna learn how to bring our foot in front of us and pop up. All right, so once we pop up, we wanna be in a bit of a warrior stance, keeping our center of gravity low and keeping that wing above our head. If that wing is too far forward and my butt is out, this is not gonna work. So I wanna make sure that I'm able to get here and get nice and planted. As you can see, my front foot is going in the direction of where I'm going, and my back foot is sort of maintaining position of balance. So it's not completely in, which makes my knees all weird, or completely out, which makes my stance all weird. It's in a neutral position where it's comfortable. If you ever did any sort of yoga, then they'll call that the warrior stance. So in any case, from here, the best exercise is imagining you're on a board, you're getting stability. This is a little trick right here, where instead of holding the handle, if you have small hands, you hold the leash. And if you hold the leash here, it sort of allows you to grip the board a bit better. So from this position, whether I'm on the balls of my feet or if I'm flat, it doesn't matter. What I want to do is practice from getting from here up to my knees to standing. So I bring the wing, I figure out my balance, I bring the wing above me. Now the wing is in front of me, pulling me. From this position, you don't want to be flying over. Okay, you want to be nice and planted. You want your arms to be holding the wing, and you don't want it to be that the wing is pulling you over one side or to the other. You want your hands to control the wing nicely while your feet and your knees are doing the rest of the work. So my body's staying planted, keeping balance on the board. My hands is keeping the wing above my head, slightly in front of me, and then that's that. So from here, I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pumps, bring my foot forward, and then with my back foot, I just lift off. All right? I don't move it, I lift off. So to show you that one more time, we go, we get some power, bring my front foot in front, and I get up. So from this position, I'm gonna be on my board and I'm gonna be moving. If I don't have balance, I'm always gonna be constantly flying off, flying over. So I wanna be able to make sure that I can go from a kneeling position to a standing position, maintaining my balance. This exercise, I'm gonna wanna practice it both ways. So I'm on my knees. I get my knees on the edge of the board to maintain balance. My feet are somewhat together under me, acting like a tripod. I could be sitting in on my heels, but I could also be a little bit off. What I want to avoid is to be completely standing tall, because then I might fall over, I might lose balance. So I want to stay small, compact, and just be in control. So keeping my center of gravity well checked and down, staying low. So from here, I do the same thing. I bring the wing over. I do the technique where I'm grabbing the wing. My back hand is grabbing the wing. It brings it over to my front hand. I pull the front hand over and I grab the back handle, and then I get some power in it. And then here I'm moving, generating speed. So one thing is that if you look at the wingtip, right now it's touching or it's very close. So I want to make sure I keep it off the ground, because if it's above my head, it's easier to control. I can see where I'm going, but I don't want it to be behind me like this. I don't want this wing to be behind me like this. I want to keep it in front of me and in control, but I want to keep it as far as I can off the water. You see my front hand is extended and my back hand slightly pulled in so I can have some control over the wing. And then from here, I'm gonna go bring my foot forward and stand, generating power. So already there, that's a lot of exercises to learn in the water. Once you're in the water, you're probably gonna have a moment where your wing is gonna flip over. So here, we'll do a worst case scenario. I'm trying to ride, I'm going, and then, whoop, the wing falls. Now from here, since I'm standing on land, it's very easy for me to just grab the wing, lift it up nice and high, and flip it over. But when I'm in the water, probably won't be able to do that. So let's just imagine I'm there, I'm trying, I'm not really in control. The wing touches the sand, flips over, I can't recuperate it, I let go, now the wing's upside down. So once I'm in the water, the proper technique to relaunch this is that I want to get to the center of the wing. From here, depending what side I'm gonna launch it on, I'm gonna go to one side or the other of the wing. In this case, I'm going to the left. So I get myself all the way to the edge of the wing. I'm gonna have one hand in the inside, one hand on the outside. And all I'm gonna do is lift the wing up, all right? I'm gonna lift the wing up into the wind. And in the wind, if we get this right here, it's gonna help me flip it over. Once it's flipped over, if I let it go, there's a chance that it flips over again. So what I'm gonna do here is hold it with my hands, and I'm gonna make my way to the center, and I'm gonna have my wing. And if I'm on the floor, I can also practice this here. So my wing is flipped upside down, maybe I'm on my board. If I'm on my board, I could be on my heels. I get to the edge of the wing, one hand in the inside, one hand on the outside. I bring the wing into the wind, and then the wind helps me flip it over. I don't let go of it right away, because if I did, there's a chance that it sort of flips around, and then I'm gonna have to do the same thing again. So I hold it, I make my way, I get to the handle, and then here I am. So now we've covered the basis of what you should be doing when you're on the land, if you want to practice before getting to the water. It's good to spend enough time here to where you're comfortable. If you only spend 5 minutes and you think you're good to go, who knows? Maybe you're a great water athlete that understands everything right away, but for most of us, we might not be at that level of intuition and skills. So it's good to take some time on the land to really practice and get comfortable. Flying the wing on land is great and it's safe. And this is the first part. Now, as mentioned, I would recommend all types of practices on the land. Walking, turning, generating power, steering, these are all great things. So now, once we've done all of that, what we're gonna be moving into is the water part. So we're gonna go up to the board, and then we're gonna start talking a little bit about the board. So let's head up there. So now we're here at our board, and we're gonna start talking a little bit about what's gonna be happening here. Since we're gonna be doing some things, putting on our impact vests and all that, I'm gonna take off my wrist leash and I'm gonna attach my wing to something. Now, if I were just to leave the wing without attaching it, it's gonna fly away, no bueno. So I'm gonna find something that's sturdy, that's not gonna blow. That's gonna be good. So I found this little nifty chair. Just take the Velcro, attach it. There we are, good to go. That wing's not gonna go anywhere. So now we practice on the beach, we're comfortable, we're gonna go into the water. You have the right board for you. A learning board, generally, for most people, is gonna be anywhere between 100 liters up to around 130 liters. In this case, we got the Rocket F1 510, which is 110 liters. So having a board with enough volume, but not too much, is gonna be definitely helping you with maintaining that initial balance you're gonna need to get standing and to get foiling when you're winging. If you're new to foiling and you haven't looked at anything else, this is a foil. So the foil is comprised of a few components. You have your front wing, you have your fuselage, you have a stabilizer, you got a mast, and then you got your adapter, in this case called a top plate, but you got your top plate which is mounted to a track system where we're gonna be able to adjust how much lift essentially we're gonna be getting from our wing or from our foil. So just to talk a little bit about this, your front wing will depend a little bit on your weight, your skill level, and what you're doing. For a general rule of thumb, when you're learning, you're gonna be on a foil that is generally a mid-range, mid-aspect foil. So it's not a high aspect, or a super low aspect. Now they're generally coming out with two sort of common foils, which is either high aspect or mid aspect. In this case, this is a Gravity 1800 mid aspect wing, which when you're looking into wing sizes, every company uses a different size, but if you're looking in the centimeters cubed, then you're going to be looking at a front wing that is anywhere between 1600 up to 2200. There's even bigger, 24, 26. But remember, this is going to depend to your weight. Now the fuselage and the stabilizer will probably come in accordance to the front wing. In terms of your mass, this depends. When you're learning, you're going to want to have a mass that is anywhere between 65 to 75 centimeters long. And then once you know how to ride, you're probably going to move up to an 85 or 95. Most likely an 85, which is very common now. But when we're learning, here we got a 65, so we're going to be using a 65 centimeter mast. What could affect what mast lengths you're going to use is the place you're riding at. In Cabarete, we got deep water with some places with reef, but the reef is never coming out of the water. It's usually a couple feet deep. So we can use essentially any mast here without a problem. The only thing we're going to have to do is walk out, and then within a matter of a couple meters, we're going to be already at head high water. So depending on your place, if you're in shallow waters, you might have to use a shorter mast just because of that. So now we got our board, we know about our foil. Some other equipment you're going to need to practice is a helmet, a leash for your board. This is a waist leash that I'll show you in a moment. In my case, I use goggles that help protect my eyes from the sun and the water, and a hat that gives me a little bit more shade. And also stabilizes the helmet a little bit, I feel. And importantly, an impact vest. Now it is optional to use something for your knees, like either using leggings or using some knee pads, some neoprene knee pads that will help you protect your knees. Especially if you're not used to being on your knees that often, then, oh, some money went flying. Catch it. The money's flying, he's getting it. Oh, oh, oh. Get it. That's the lottery of the day, guys, in Cabarete. So in any case, what I'm gonna do here, I'm going to rig up all my protective equipment, and then we're gonna talk a little bit about the foil, and we're gonna go out into the water. So that's it for part one, guys. This is Charles Osterlin with Liquid Blue Cabarete in Cabarete, Dominican Republic. Have a good one. Hey guys, Charles here with Liquid Blue Cabarete in Cabarete, Dominican Republic. We're on part two, where we're gonna be talking about the going into the water with wing foiling.